Welcome to Vaesen, Nordic Horror Roleplaying. We are about to begin our first mystery, The Dance of Dreams. This game is set in the mythic North, a 19th century Scandinavia transformed by the steam engine and the telegraph, yet still haunted by the creatures of folklore. Most people can no longer see these beings, but you two are different. You have the sight, an ability gained through past trauma that allows you to see the invisible spirits and monsters we call Vaesen. Together you have moved into Castle Gillenkreuz in Uppsala to re-establish the Society, an ancient organization dedicated to studying and banishing these supernatural threats. Before we head to the Witch Cat Inn, let us meet our investigators.
My name is Albert Brugge, and I am an academic. In this world of growing enlightenment, I believe that knowledge and logic are our best weapons against the unknown. My highest attribute is logic, and my primary skill is learning, which allows me to decipher ancient texts and identify the weaknesses of the creatures we hunt. I have the erudite talent, meaning I can often recall historical truths about the locations we visit. My motivation for this work is simply charting the unknown, though I carry a heavy burden. I gained the sight when I watched my former research partner being torn apart by a giant. I rarely speak of it, but it is why I always carry my hip flask. It steadies my nerves when the world turns dark.
And I'm Helena Brugge, Albert's wife. While Albert focuses on cold facts, I am a writer who focuses on the human element. My main attribute is empathy, and my main skill is inspiration. I am a journalist by trade, which is a unique talent of mine. It allows me to use my inspiration instead of manipulation when I need to charm or deceive someone for information. I gained the sight after hearing the alluring Song of the Neck in the woods. I failed to write down the lyrics, and that obsession changed my eyes forever. While Albert researches the history of the Vaesen, I will be the one talking to the locals at the Witch Cat Inn, uncovering their secrets and healing our minds when the horror becomes too much to bear.
Albert, Helena, our work to restore the Society begins today with a mystery titled The Dance of Dreams. A letter has arrived at Castle Gillenkreuz from a private investigator named Olaus Klint containing a flyer for a shadow play at the Witch Cat Inn south of Uppsala. It speaks of a hero named Oscar Orchort and an enchanted flute that sends souls to hell.
As an academic, I find the mention of this shadow play and the name Oscar H. Hort intriguing. I shall spend our preparation phase in the castle library, using my high logic and learning skills to see if our archives hold any record of this man or the inn.
That is a wise move, Albert, and a perfect time to explain how we use our characteristics to overcome challenges. To search the library, you will make a skill test by adding your logic attribute of 5 to your learning skill of 3, meaning you roll 8 six-sided dice. In the Year Zero engine we use for Vaesen, you only need to roll at least 1 6 to succeed.
I have rolled the dice and see 2 6s, so my research is successful.
Excellent, because you succeeded. You find that the Witch Cat Inn was once a secret gathering place for Society members like Albert Redenhilm and Katja Kokula 50 years ago. You also learned that Oscar Hjort was a writer and master of shadow theater who joined the Society before disappearing.
While Albert focuses on these cold facts, I will use my empathy to prepare our social approach for the innkeeper. Sammy. My resource level is 3, so I will attempt to procure a comfortable carriage for our journey through the storm.
To do that, Helena, you roll 3 dice based on your resources, as equipment availability is determined by your character's standing and wealth. If you ever fail a test that is crucial, you can choose to push the roll by exerting yourself, which allows a re-roll but inflicts a condition like being exhausted or angry. These conditions act as injuries, subtracting 1 die from your future rolls for each one you suffer.
I understand I will avoid pushing my luck unless it is a matter of life and death against a Vaesen.
Now we begin the journey phase as you leave Uppsala in a coach, heading south into a violent fall thunderstorm. Lightning cracks across the sky, and the wind howls through the pine forest as you pass Lake Malar. On the way to a mystery, each of you can play a short scene to gain an advantage, which is a specific insight or item that adds 2 extra dice to 1 skill test later in the session.
I will use my time in the carriage to steady my nerves with my hip flask memento, focusing my mind on the historical texts I read. I want my advantage to be an old map I found in the library that might show the inn's original layout.
I will spend the journey comforting our pet dog and reviewing the photo of my loved one, gaining an advantage in observation to help me spot anything unusual when we arrive.
The coachman drops you off at the Witch Cat Inn, a wooden building that looks as if it is literally falling apart, with rain dripping through the roof into buckets. Waiting for you under the stable roof is Olos Clint, who whispers that the inn is in the grip of a power that frightens him. He warns you that guests are having nightmares of being buried alive or murdered, and he believes the shadow play tonight is the key. You must now use your sight to see the truth behind these shadows. You step through the heavy wooden doors of the Witch Cat Inn, escaping the torrential rain inside. The atmosphere is a strange mix of cozy firelight and unsettling decay. Buckets litter the floor to catch leaks, and the floorboards groan under your every step. Sammy, the stout and surly innkeeper, is currently arguing with his daughter, Sophia, near the kitchen. Olaus Clint stays close to you, his eyes darting around the shadows.
The tension here is thick enough to cut with a knife. As a writer with the journalist's talent, I want to approach Sammy and see if I can charm him into telling us more about the Dance of Dreams play Olaus mentioned. I will roll for an inspiration test, adding my empathy of 5 to my inspiration skill of 3 for a total of 8 dice.
That is correct, Helena. In Vaesen, the journalist's talent allows you to use inspiration instead of manipulation when trying to charm someone for information. However, Sammy is in a foul mood. This is a challenging test, meaning you need at least 2 successes, that is, 2 sixes to get him to open up.
I rolled the 8 dice, but I only see 1 6. I failed to get the full truth.
Sammy grumbles that art is a waste of time and tells you to mind your business, but since you got 1 success, he doesn't throw you out. If you want that second success, you could push the roll. You would suffer a mental condition, like being angry or frightened, which gives you a -1 penalty to all logic and empathy rolls, but you get to re-roll every die that wasn't a 6.
I'll pass for now. I don't want to be frightened before the mystery even begins.
While Sammy is distracted by Helena, I want to use my high logic and investigation skill to examine the lounge. I'm looking for physical signs of the nightmares Olos described. I'll add my logic of 5 to my investigation of 2, rolling 7 dice.
You find strange scratch marks on the floorboards, almost as if someone were dragged toward the cellar while they slept. Albert, as an academic, you can also use your erudite talent here. This allows you to pass a learning test to establish historical truths about this place. Add your logic of 5 to your learning skill of 3 and roll 8 dice.
I rolled my 8 dice and got 3 sixes, an extra success.
With those extra successes, you don't just remember the history, you realize the scratch marks match the rhythmic sweeping movements of a continental shadow theater dance from 50 years ago. Suddenly, the oil lamps flicker and turn an icy blue. The temperature drops instantly. Olaus Clint and the other guests suddenly collapse into a deep, unnatural sleep.
It's happening. Is this a Vaesen?
You see a shimmering, rotting figure emerge from the shadow theater screen in the attic above, its voice echoing like it's coming from a deep grave. This is your first encounter with the Revenant, Oscar Atjort. You both must make a fear test. Oscar has a fear value of 2, so you need 2 successes to avoid becoming terrified.
I'll use my logic attribute of 5 to keep my head clear, since I have Helena by my side in this room. The rules grant me 1 extra die for having an ally present, so I will roll 6 dice total.
I'll use my empathy of 5 plus the 2 extra dice from my advantage observation that I gained during our journey. That's 7 dice to resist the horror.
If you fail, you'll suffer mental conditions equal to the fear value and might flee, freeze, or faint. Roll now to see if your sight can withstand the nightmare of the Witch Cat Inn. The shimmering, rotting figure of the Revenant, Oscar Hjort, looms over you both in the attic, his voice a gravelly whisper of betrayal. Albert, you are rolling 6 dice for your fear test, using your logic attribute plus the bonus for having Helena nearby. Helena, you are rolling 7 dice using your empathy plus your observation advantage. You both need 2 successes to avoid becoming terrified. Albert, you first.
I'm shaking the dice now. There they go. I see 2 sixes. My academic mind has seen enough horrors in my research to keep me grounded. I meet the fear value of 2 and remain focused.
Excellent, Albert. Your logic holds firm against the supernatural chill. Helena, how do your 7 dice look?
I'm rolling now. Oh no, I only see a single 6. I am 1 success short.
Because you failed the fear test by 1 success, you suffer 1 mental condition. In Vaesen, mental conditions like being angry, frightened, or hopeless each subtract 1 die from your future logic and empathy tests. Which one will Helena take?
I'll take the frightened condition. My hands are trembling so much I can barely hold my camera, and I can feel that -1 penalty clouding my thoughts already.
It gets worse, Helena, because you failed a fear test. You are now terrified. I've rolled a 6-sided die, and it shows a 3. For the next 3 rounds of this encounter, you lose control of your actions. You must choose to flee, freeze, faint, or attack the nearest threat. What does Helena do as Oscar glares at her?
I'll freeze. I stand paralyzed in the blue light of the Shadow Theater, my eyes wide with terror, unable to move or speak while that thing whispers in the dark.
I cannot stand by and watch my wife succumb to madness. I'm reaching into my coat for my memento, my engraved hip flask. The rules say I can use a memento once per mystery to heal a condition by interacting with it. I'll take a quick, sharp swig of the liquor to steady myself. Then I'll press the cold metal of the flask into Helena's hand, whispering that she's safe. That should heal her frightened condition.
That's a perfect use of your memento, Albert. The physical shock of the cold flask helps Helena find her center again, though she must still wait out the remaining rounds of her terror. Suddenly, the Revenant howls a name, Piri, and vanishes through the floorboards toward the kitchen. The blue flames flicker back to orange, and the heavy silence of the inn returns.
I can breathe again. That was horrifying. Now that I've recovered, we need to find Nora's journal. Sophia said her mother kept notes on this ghost in her locked room on the 2nd floor.
I agree. Let's head to the 2nd floor. I have my writing utensils ready to record whatever clues we find. We are standing before Nora's door now. It's heavy oak and firmly locked.
I'll try to pick it. I have a precision of 2 and a stealth skill of 1. Since Albert used his hip flask to heal my frightened condition earlier, I'm currently healthy and rolling my full 3 dice for this test.
Wait, Helena. The rules allow me to help you. Since I'm standing right here, I can provide a help action to give you 1 extra die, as long as I can explain how I'm assisting. I'll hold the oil lamp steady and use my magnifying glass to help you see the tumblers inside the lock.
Thank you, Albert. That brings me up to 4 dice. Rolling now, I see. No 6s. The lock won't budge.
You've failed the test, Helena. In Vaesen, a failed roll usually means the story stops, but you have the option to push the roll. This represents your character giving it their absolute all, but it comes at a cost. Since you are pushing a roll based on precision, you must suffer a physical condition, perhaps becoming exhausted, to re-roll those 4 dice. Do you take the risk?
We don't have time to wait for Sammy to catch us. I'll push the roll. The strain of manipulating these tiny tools in the dark is wearing me out, so I'll take the exhausted condition. Now I'm re-rolling all 4 dice. Yes, 2 6s.
The lock clicks, and the door to Nora's room swings open. The air inside is stale and smells of old paper and dried flowers. Albert, your academic eyes immediately spot a shelf of occult books and a leather-bound diary. This is Nora's journal, a central clue.
I'll use my learning skill to quickly scan the entries. I'm rolling my logic of 5 plus my learning of 3. 8 dice. I have 3 6s.
With those extra successes, you don't just find the journal, you find a secret entry from February 8th. It says that Sami's grandfather, Piri, murdered Oscar Achort 50 years ago and buried him in the garden root cellar without a Christian burial. It says they desecrated the body with magic.
So that's why he's a revenant. He isn't just a ghost, he's a spirit of vengeance bound to this earth because his body was hidden in unholy ground. To banish him, we don't need weapons. We need to dig him up and give him a proper burial in consecrated ground.
Then we must head to the root cellar in the garden immediately. But we must be careful. The countdown is progressing. I can hear the sleeping guests in the lounge downstairs starting to moan and twitch. Oscar is turning them into his puppets. We must finish the ritual before the Dance of Dreams turns into a massacre.
As you rush down the creaky stairs and out into the violent thunderstorm, the Witch Cat Inn seems to groan behind you. You reach the garden root cellar, but when you throw open the heavy wooden door, you don't see a small storage room. Instead, Oscar's magic has transformed it into a vast dark cave filled with the stench of decay and the whispering voices of the dead.
My logic tells me this space is physically impossible, but my sight reveals the truth of this nightmare. We must both make a fear test to keep our wits, and remember that because we are standing side by side, the rules grant us 1 extra die for having an ally present.
I will use my empathy of 5 plus that ally bonus to roll 6 dice against Oscar's fear value of 2. I see 3 sixes, which is a success. My mind remains clear even as the vision of Oscar's throat bursting open appears before us.
I have succeeded as well, so we are not terrified or forced to flee. I see his skeleton in the center of the mud, and I must begin the ritual to rebury him in consecrated ground. I will use my force skill to dig, adding my physique attribute of 2 to my force value of 0, giving me 2 dice to roll.
As Albert begins to dig, the sleepwalkers, the other guests controlled like puppets by Oscar, reach the cellar door with sweeping, rhythmic movements. They are coming to stop you, and since they are a group, they act on a single initiative card.
I need to hold them back so Albert can finish. I'll use my fast action to move into their zone and block the path. Then, for my slow action, I will use my inspiration skill to command them to stop. Rolling my empathy of 5 plus my inspiration of 3.
You have 8 dice, Helena. You only need 1 success to influence a group, but these are Oscar's puppets, so it may only stall them for a moment.
I rolled 2 sixes. I'm using my extra success to impose a mental condition on them, making them frightened so they hesitate to approach.
I failed my force roll to unearth the remains, so I am going to push the roll. To do this, I must suffer a physical condition. I'll take Exhausted, which means I'll have a -1 penalty to all future physique and precision rolls. Now I re-roll my failed dice, and I see a 6.
You've unearthed Oscar's bones, Albert. The revenant howls in the wind, and you see his spirit watching from the shadows. Helena, you must help Albert finish the ritual of consecration now.
I'll provide a help action, describing how I use my photo memento to steady my heart while whispering a prayer, which gives Albert 1 extra die on his final test to complete the burial.
With Helena's help, I'm rolling my logic plus learning. I have 3 sixes. As I sprinkle the earth and speak the final words, the screaming wind turns to a peaceful silence.
The ritual is complete. Oscar's spirit looks at you with gratitude before fading away into the light, and the sleepwalkers collapse to the floor as his magic ceases. The mystery is solved, and now we move to the aftermath phase to see if your trauma has left any permanent marks and to learn how your characters change. But now, listener, you need to like and subscribe and tell us in the comments what you think should happen next.